Hello and welcome to Digital Farm TV Rural News. I'm Andy Walker. Australian livestock exporters are being investigated after allegations that sheep are being illegally sold and slaughtered in an inhumane way at a notorious Kuwait market. It is the second major federal Agriculture Department investigation since new animal welfare rules were implemented after last year's cattle slaughter controversy in Indonesia. The allegations were aired on ABC TV's Lateline late last week. Animals Australia said the organisation's Kuwaiti investigator discovered exported sheep were being sold in non-approved markets and killed inhumanely in makeshift abattoirs. Exporters must comply with rules that assure high animal welfare standards from farm to slaughter. The release of Choice's Australia First report into the major supermarkets today has prompted new calls from the National Farmers Federation for governments to recognise the impact of regulatory and business cost burdens on our nation's farmers. NFF President Jock Laurie said the release of the Choice report, which showed that only a percentage of Coles and Woolworths' home brand products were locally sourced, demonstrated that farmers were becoming increasingly uncompetitive. Given Australian agriculture was an export-reliant industry, Australian farmers were used to competing on uneven playing fields in overseas subsidised markets, Jock Laurie said. Coles and Woolworths' decisions to source products for their home brands from overseas suppliers clearly demonstrated this. Retailers were seeking cheaper, lower-cost products from other markets for grocery items like packaged food and tinned vegetables. The Federal Agriculture Minister Joe Ludwig has taken a big swipe at the Queensland State Government for its abrupt about-face on cuts on the state's agricultural education and training program. 2 weeks ago, Queensland Agriculture Minister John McVie indicated Emerald Agricultural College and the Longreach Pastoral College would be shut down as part of a wider review into funding. Late last week, however, the Newman government issued a media release indicating it had decided not to proceed with cuts to these colleges that could have decimated skills and training development in Queensland agriculture. Senator Joe Ludwig has called on the Newman government to provide further assurances about the future of agriculture training in the state. At least Minister McVeigh had seen the error of some of his ways and had backflipped on his decision to withdraw financial support for these two important regional colleges, Senator Ludwig said. Agricultural training was essential, and this was just another example of where Newman's cuts were going too far. Testing soil for root lesion nematode type and population during the summer cropping phase was a crucial step in ensuring coming wheat and chickpea crops achieve their maximum yield potential. That was the message from Agri-Science Queensland soil microbiologist Dr. Kirsty Owen, who said more than 2,000 nematodes per kilogram anywhere in the soil profile equated to a potentially damaging population. This meant at least 2 resistant crops had to be grown after a susceptible crop to give wheat and chickpea crops a chance to achieve maximum yield potential, Dr. Owen said. She said the main root lesion nematode species in the Grains Research and Development Corporation Northern Region could reduce yields of intolerant varieties by more than 50% in wheat and up to 20% in chickpeas. Root lesion nematodes were a significant problem that cost Northern Region growers $47 million a year in lost wheat production. Western Australian grain growers are being urged to inspect individual paddocks for mice in coming weeks, as the pests have the potential to go unnoticed and cause significant yield losses in developing crops. Grains Research and Development Corporation WA Regional Program Manager Darren Hughes said some farmers believed mice would not pose a risk to crops if they had been baited once, or if mouse activity earlier in the season wasn't high, but spring remained a critical period for mouse activity and possible damage. Mouse numbers can build and decline rapidly, and carryover populations of mice from autumn have the potential to cause severe damage to crops at the flowering and seed set stages. The newly available GRDC mouse fact sheet included information on monitoring, crop damage, control economic thresholds, ongoing management and hygiene, and useful resources. Dr Hughes said mouse activity had been reported in pockets throughout the WA grain belt in recent weeks, including in the Northern Agricultural Region, the Central Grain Belt and the Esperance region. Higher than usual mouse numbers have been recorded also in many areas in Western Australia in autumn. Finally, across the Tasman, the need to clean up dirty rivers has been put above the needs of farmers following an Environment Court decision being seen by some as a huge victory for clean water advocates. But a New Zealand Federated Farmers representative said the decision would put farmers out of work or force them overseas. The groundbreaking Environment Court decision paved the way for regional councils to limit the amount of nutrients running off farms into waterways, where they could kill fish and plants, cause algal blooms and make water unsafe for swimming or drinking. Dairy giant Fonterra and Federated Farmers, among others, agreed on the need for a regime to control nutrient runoff, but they argued about how such an outcome should be achieved. In a ruling this week, the court found that though voluntary programs such as the Daring and Clean Streams Accord might be laudable as far as they went, history suggested the programs had not dealt with the problem. Well, that's it for Digital Farm TV Rural News this week. I'm Andy Walker. Look forward to your company next week.